This is the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.
The Dallas Stars have done it again, on to the West Final for a third straight year. Andrew Cely, welcome in to the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. I'm Mike Leslie. This team just keeps on figuring out a way to make it happen.
I just remember a couple weeks ago when I was begging to talk hockey on this show, and now it's like the third straight week. We're doing the majority of it hockey. It's so much fun to get into.
This team is worth it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with that, we got a lot to get into besides hockey. So let's get into what's on the show.
Here's What's on the Show, sponsored by NFM.
I'm already cringing internally for saying this, but as Winnipeg would say, thanks to Ottinger, the Dallas Stars are on their way to the Western Conference Final for the third straight year and ready for a rematch against Connor McDavid and the Oilers. We'll break it all down. Plus, Scottie Scheffler's got another major title to his name. The Mavs won the lottery, and Paige Bueckers made her Dallas Wings debut. And oh, by the way, it's the return of everyone except Michelle's favorite game, no fence riding, and we're looking right at the Pete Rose debacle. So get your opinions ready, guys. That's what's on the show. Now, who's on the show, Mike?
Everyone all together now. Boo this man.
It's all right.
And boo whoever made that Winnipeg Jets song.
It's the last time you'll hear it.
On the show today, Saad Yousuf of The Athletic and Jonah of WFA. Gentlemen, thank you for being here as always. As Andrew alluded to, another Stars-centric show after Dallas closed out the Winnipeg Jets in game number 6 last night at the AAC. Saad, I will start with you. What's your FOMO like right now? You had a chance to cover this team up close and in person for a long time. What's your reaction to what the Stars have done in these playoffs, especially considering how much everybody was kind of hanging on for dear life at the tail end of the regular season?
Yeah, look, I mean, they're finally getting healthy. Miro Heiskanen was incredible in Game 6. But I think, for a lot of people, this is about Jake Ottinger. And I know that, Mikko Rantanen is the favorite to win the Conn Smythe, and I understand Miro's back and everything. But to me, this playoff run right now is about Jake Ottinger and what he's done, especially going up against Connor Hellebuck, who was, his rival American goalie, if you will, vying for the Team USA spot next year. And the way that Ottinger has played, the Stars have incredible depth, especially up front with their forwards and everything, but they haven't got production up and down the lineup. Jake Ottinger, especially with that save late in the game in Game 6, I mean, he is the reason why they were able to dispatch the Winnipeg Jets in 6 games. And I think, for me, that's the biggest, and that's just the biggest storyline for me coming out of that series in particular.
Jonah, specifically, Game 6, though, I thought was also about Heiskanen finally getting his legs. Some of the plays he made up and down the ice on both sides of the puck were really impressive.
Yeah, and listen, this is something that Matt Duchene had been talking to us, about for days leading up to this series. Was when you lose your number one blue liner, it's like losing 2 to 3 of your top forwards in hockey because of how much time they spend on the ice, how much they control the puck, how much they really dictate everything that the Stars like to do, and especially when that blue liner is somebody of Miro's caliber. I mean, he was just so intrinsic to everything that they do. And so getting him back, I think there was some concern that how quickly is he going to adapt to the lineup? And I still don't think he's like fully back to that Miro that we have grown accustomed to seeing when he is at full strength. But they are starting to see the dividends of him being back in the lineup. Now they're just waiting to see Jason Robertson kind of take that step. And sea legs is really the term that I've heard in the locker room the most. It's really just you can't prep for it in practice because there really isn't much practice during the playoffs. It's you just kind of figure it out within the game, which is not always the easiest come playoff time.
Yeah, there's so much that is important about what they did on Saturday night to close out the series in 6, give themselves a few days of rest before Game 1 on Wednesday night, to give this team an opportunity to get just that much more healthy, especially in the form of Miro Heiskanen and Jason Robertson. This is a team that won 4 playoff games without Robo, won 6 playoff games without Miro, and now, theoretically, should have both of those guys pretty darn close to full go come Game 1 of the Western Conference Final against Edmonton. And oh, by the way, they beat the Avs and the Jets along the way to get here. This team looks super dangerous right now.
It's hard not to argue with that. I think the question, though, is they've been in this position a lot. Edmonton's the one that broke through last year, and they're facing a team now that is hungry in a way because they got close last year. And how much does that discrepancy change the dynamic entering this year, where that was basically Connor McDavid's breakout moment. Saad, I'm curious from your perspective, when you look at the difference this year, mentally, physically, between both of these teams as compared to last year's series, what's your main takeaway heading into it? What are you going to look forward to the most in games 1 and 2 to kind of set the tone of this thing?
Well, I think the Stars are just better from top to bottom, and their depth speaks for itself. And, you know, to go off of what Jonah was talking about with Miro, I think Mark Stone deserves some credit in a weird way for how good the Stars have been. Because for him, because Miro's injury, where I'm really getting at is Miro's injury put Thomas Harley in a spot where he had to take over the number 1 spot. And we've seen that throughout the playoffs, but we also saw it in the regular season. Pete DeBoer talked about it the other day. The Stars have turned to Thomas Harley to do so much. Now, we expect Miro to be Miro, but, you know, when you ask me what's the difference between last year and this year, it's that you have Thomas Harley operating at such a high level, which I don't think happens if he's constantly in the shadow of Miro Heiskanen. And now you have 2 bona fide number 1 defensemen. And by the way, the other guys, especially their young guy, Leon Bichsel, is a quality guy as well. I just think their defensive group, remember last year, don't forget, throughout the playoff run, they were essentially playing with 5 defensemen because Pete DeBoer had no confidence in Nils Lundqvist to go out there and play quality minutes. So for Miro Heiskanen and Thomas Harley to be heading that defensive blue line for the Stars, to me, that's the big difference, especially against Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl.
I think the Stars are clearly better this year than they were last year. Obviously, just very easily point to Mikko Rantanen as a major upgrade for this team. But I think in totality, certainly what you're talking about, the depth of the blue line is a big part of that. I think Edmonton, though, is also better than they were last year. And if you look at the raw numbers, a lot of the raw numbers would suggest they're about the same as they were last year in terms of how often they score, some of the basic, the most base level metrics of what they do on the ice. But this is a team that doesn't feel like it's just Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl anymore. It feels like a team that has a little bit more depth to work with from top to bottom, and I think that's going to make them harder to deal with. I think Dallas has got a really strong case for being the better team in this series, but I think Edmonton is better than they were a year ago. Jonah, what's your read on this series?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Stars head coach Pete DeBoer said this after the game last night. I asked him kind of straight up about that, and he said, you know, we can look at last year, but it's not quite indicative of the Oilers team that we're about to face because they are deeper. They have more weapons, and that it's not just the McDavid and Draisaitl show that we were used to seeing for a number of years up in Edmonton. And that was it's a great point you make, Andrew, is that normally you kind of hope for that revenge factor in a series. And, for the Stars, there is that. Miro and Ottinger kind of alluded to it yesterday in their post-game remarks. But the Oilers are out for revenge, too. And McDavid, you just saw how he competed in that Cup final and getting that close. He is on a mission. And it's not only a dangerous team, but a generational talent on a mission is really scary. So that Stars defense, the goaltender, Otter, I mean, that is going to be the X factor in this series. The Stars offense has been the storyline really all year, but Otter and the blue line, if they can kind of, at least keep the Oilers' attack in check relatively, they have a good shot of coming out of the series.
100%. Mike and I have talked about it a little bit, but off camera. Wyatt Johnston being the Stars' leading scorer to one point, at least the main offensive engine toward the tail end of the season. Great story, great for the kid. Can he match up with McDavid? Maybe with Mikko on his side playing the way he is now. Now we got something.
Jonah said a generational talent on a mission. Pete DeBoer might ask you, are you talking about Mikko Rantanen? Because he's been in a similar vein of late for sure. This is the great thing about Dallas sports. All of a sudden, we've got everything to talk about. A ton still to come on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show after this.
Today's headlines, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers.
Despite a brilliant start from pitcher Jack Leiter, the Texas Rangers come up short in their series finale against the Astros 4-3. And at Quail Hollow, Scottie Scheffler cobbled together a consistent final round to fend off the rest of the field and win the PGA Championship. It's his third major title. I thought I was being a little generous saying cobbling because really what happened was the rest of the field fell apart, Mike. If we're being honest.
I mean, listen, he shot one over.
Right.
He did everything he needed to do.
Sure.
Everybody else did fall apart. It made for about as boring a final round of a major as you could get. Like, there was one moment where Rahm caught him at 9 under, and then you blinked and he'd opened it back up again. There wasn't a ton of intrigue.
No, not really. Saad, what'd you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. I don't think there was a ton of intrigue, but I think it just showed the dominance that he has. I mean, he's established himself, as just one of the absolute elite. And we've had these waves, even with the local talent. We saw Jordan Spieth all those years ago, and we thought we were on the cusp of something really special. I really do think with Scottie Scheffler, we are on the cusp of something really special.
Jonah, your main takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, the cusp, he's been super special since he broke through a few years ago. I always go back to this old phrase that my scratch golfer buddy always says, and it's good golf is boring golf. And we kind of see that on display with Scottie Scheffler a lot. I got a kick out of Jim Nance at the end, though, remarking about how we never see this from Scottie Scheffler, which was him just being happy and enthusiastic and yelling and screaming. I'm like, oh gosh, if that's, how robotic is he that we have to, kind of go to those lengths to describe him. But yeah, I mean, pure dominance, pure brilliance. And I mean, just when he's not even playing his best and he still wins by that much, it is scary to see what else he can do.
It's sacrilege anytime we go down the pathway of trying to follow down the footsteps of Tiger Woods, and he's not doing that.
Whoa. I know, I'm just saying.
He's the closest thing we've seen since. He's the closest thing we've seen since.
It's a little
he's
early.
Dominating.
A little early.
I'm not saying he's Tiger. It's early to say he's Tiger. I'm not saying he's Tiger. I'm saying he's head and shoulders above everybody else since then in terms of the way that he's dominating right now.
Saad, your thought?
Well, one thing I just had fun that I thought they had a lot of fun with was his uniform color, or his color that he wore out the other day, and then the Nike messaging too. I don't know if you guys saw how Nike their promo, saying that he was guilty of being the best golfer in the world and that the verdict was in. So I did enjoy the fun that everybody had around his dominance.
That's a nice way of putting it.
366 days ago.
Yeah. Speaking of something that's not boring, something that hasn't been boring for the last 3 months, the Dallas Mavericks, who somehow wound up winning the lottery. I don't know how we got to this point, guys, but the Mavs are going to be relevant again next year, at least we think, based off of the roster that if it is healthy, as constructed. I know Jonah and Mike and I have already kind of gone through the terms on this back on Monday when the news broke, but Saad, just your initial reaction on what this means for next year and beyond for Dallas.
Well, I think this is huge for Cooper Flagg. I mean, this is the equivalent of a quarterback going in the mid-teens or something. Normally, the best player goes to a really bad situation that he has to revive a lot around him. He doesn't go to, possibly throwing lobs to Anthony Davis and sharing a backcourt in the second half of his rookie season with Kyrie Irving and things like that. So I think, Cooper Flagg is going to be in a really good situation in terms of NBA development. And I think that puts the Mavericks in a really good situation, obviously, as well.
Jonah, has your opinion shifted at all since the last time we talked? Because I think you were still on team, if you could trade the first overall pick for Luka, you'd do it.
I think I still would do that just because, I mean, I still would. It is super exciting for Mavericks fans, and I just kind of go back to this one thought when it comes to Cooper Flagg and this trio that we're now going to see is, how is it all going to coexist on the floor? I mean, it's tantalizing to say, oh, they're going to get Cooper Flagg. They're going to have all this talent. They're going to have so many bigs. I mean, what is the plan? I talked to Rick Welts about this the other day, the Mavs CEO, and he was telling me that after the draft that some people had reached out to him and be like, oh, that's a problem. And he didn't see it as a problem. I kind of see it as a problem. Maybe not necessarily a problem. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's certainly a conundrum and something that Jason Kidd is going to have to figure out X's and O's wise, because now they took a position that they were remarkably weak at maybe 2 years ago. And now it's an insane strength. So I think trying to find a supplemental guard play and depth guard play is going to be the key this offseason.
They do have to figure it out. There's no two ways about that, and they need to figure out more than just Kyrie Irving at the guard position. But in a division where you might very soon have to be defending Wemby and Giannis at the same time, having a whole bunch of size may not be the worst thing in the world. That could have real. You want to line Cooper Flagg, Anthony Davis, and Derek Lively up and just go massive lineup. That could bear dividends for him in the long run.
It's as close as the Monstars that will probably.
A little early to give him.
Wemby's
energy.
the one with the really long Jordan arms. So.
If we're talking about easy transitions so far, obviously Paige Bueckers made her debut the other night. Saad, I'm curious from your perspective, did you get what you wanted out of her just from the first game, get the jitters out?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, again, not a high-scoring game or anything like that, but I think with Paige Bueckers, Caitlin Clark has set such a high standard for what hype in the WNBA looks like, and it's not always going to be at that level. I do think it was important for her just to get the jitters out, and I don't think that from my perspective, the hype and the excitement around the Dallas Wings has waned at all just because she didn't set the league by storm in game one. But I am just as excited as I was before she made her debut.
Jonah, anything stick out to you in game one?
No, I don't care. She could have gone 0-4. It doesn't matter. It's the first game. She's going to take time to adapt to the WNBA. It's still a different type of game. And people need to practice patience. Everything in sports nowadays, we want things instant. We want her to put up a triple-double in her first game. Some things just don't work like that. But I have no doubt that she'll be a superstar here in short order. Just might not be game one.
Yeah, she talked about the speed's different, the game is different, the size is different. It's going to take a minute, but it's going to click for sure. When we come back, no fence riding, Andrew's favorite segment, and maybe Andrew's favorite topic.
It might be. We'll see. Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. Time now for everyone except Michelle's favorite game. No fence riding. Concept is simple. I've got some statements for our esteemed panel. Really only one tonight.
Yeah,
and
just
it's up
one.
to them to decide which side of the fence they're on. No waffling or they get called out. And we start with a topic that I could go for an hour on. Somehow Rob Manfred made Pete Rose's Hall of Fame eligibility a lose-lose situation. A shocker that the guy who called the World Series trophy a piece of metal would screw this one up too, but here we are. Manfred announced that Rose and the 1919 Black Sox would be removed from baseball's ineligible list. All of them were on the list for association with gambling in various degrees. It was made a rule after the Black Sox scandal in 1919. Rose knew that, still bet on baseball in the 80s. My gripe isn't necessarily with Rose here. For now, it's Manfred who decided to open this can of worms all over again. If Pete gets in, it's a crime to the caretakers of the game and what they've stood for generations, and it's a crime that we won't get his reaction to it because he's gone. If he doesn't get in, then there was no real point to this whole charade anyway, and you've undercut what little authority you have as a commissioner left in the eyes of the baseball world. Saad, lead us off here. Which side of the fence you on?
Yeah, I'm with you, Andrew. And the reason why is because, like you said, it opens up a can of worms. I mean, where do we fall on Barry Bonds then? I mean, I know it's not the same thing. It's not betting. But again, you've kind of opened this can of worms of when you have broken the rules knowingly, then it's okay. And I agree with you as well that the fact that this all happens after Pete Rose is gone. I mean, Pete Rose didn't leave the world when he was 60 years old. I mean, there was a long time that you could have made this decision, and for it to happen now, so soon after he's passed away, it doesn't sit right with me as well. To your point, it's not really about Pete Rose or not. I understand he's the hit king, and I understand arguments on both sides, but it's the timing that really rubs me the wrong way.
Jonah, your initial thought?
I do wonder if this is a bit of a PR stunt by Major League Baseball in hopes of just getting more attention to the sport. And anytime you mention Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame and gambling on baseball, I mean it's a surefire needle mover. As for the fence, I'm for it. I'm actually for let in Barry Bonds, let in all the guys who roided up. I don't really care. They made baseball fun. In fact, I would argue baseball was at its most fun during the steroid era. So, sure, let them all in. I know that's a hot take that some might not agree with, but it is for me.
Mike?
Honestly, the concept of him getting in, the concept of A-Rod and Bonds and Clemens and whatever getting in, that doesn't bother me all that much. It does bother me the timing of it all. Like, to Saad's point, you had plenty of time. You could have done this when the guy was still on the face of the earth to experience the moment. If you're going to enshrine the guy in the Hall of Fame, which clearly that's the intent here, that's what you're unlocking by doing this, why not do it when he's still alive to see it happen? That feels like you're kind of twisting the knife after the fact. Like, yeah, you got in, but you didn't get to see it happen. Like, why do it that way? If you're going to do this 5 years ago. Nothing has fundamentally changed in that time frame. We are just as much as we were 5 years ago in this space where gambling is having this renaissance and is more acceptable in popular culture. Why couldn't you have done this 5 years ago when he was still around to see it happen? That's the part that rubs me the most wrong about all this.
And to get into the Pete Rose side of it for an example real quick, because one of the main arguments I've heard from people, hey, if you put him in the Hall of Fame should be a museum. I visited last year. There is a museum attached to it. The Hall of Fame is its own specific part of the museum, but the entire museum still exists to honor the history of baseball. And Bonds is in there. Sosa's in there. McGuire's in there. Pete Rose is in there multiple times. He is part of that entire history, the tapestry of the sport. You're talking cleats, you're talking baseballs, you're talking bats. I can't remember if there was a jersey there or not. They even have a literal interactive display asking should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. So really what we're arguing over is not trying to incorporate him into remembering him in the annals of baseball. We're asking him to get a plaque. And that's where some of this gets a little bit different, because that hallway, when you turn the corner, is special. And I feel like on some level, that should be reserved for people who at least exemplified the honor of the game when they were enshrined. And
somebody call the tag the hub, because Andrew's going to
going
go
on
straight
forever,
through
man.
until midnight.
Going on forever.
Cancel the rest of the programming schedule. We got to get away. Saad and Jonah, thank you guys so much. We got to hit a break. We can seriously go on all night with this, man.
We owe Saad a gift basket at least for staying up late. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate it. Little peek behind the curtain here real quick. One of the most tense moments of the show is trying to figure out when he will stop taking notes during the animations before segments. I just want to make sure he's awake and aware that we're doing a show. By the way, it's time for his final take.
Got to bookend the show with the Stars. We talked about it all through the first segment. It deserves another mention here because I think this team has very real possibility to not only win these Western Conference Finals, but to hoist the cup this year. This team is getting better and better and better, the Stars are, over the course of these playoffs. They're obviously getting healthier with Miro and Robo getting back into the fold. Mikko Rantanen is on a ridiculous tear. This team is really good. They're very deep. They absolutely can go win a Stanley Cup. A lot of work to be done, no two ways about it. Edmonton's really good, and the teams that are going to come out of the East are fantastic as well. So there's still a long march still to be had for the Dallas Stars, but you've got every reason to believe in this team. They can do this thing.
Is that what your notes say? Or?
That is what my notes say, yes.
Okay,
yes. Like Jerry Jones at the NFL draft, I'll hold up the notepad.
Careful, we don't know what's written on there. I didn't have time to screen that, all right? Just thankful we got two blocks of Stars content in. Gotta love it. We will see you guys next week.
Good night, everybody.
Take care.
This has been the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.